I am making a deck profile for the Odeon deck, which I suppose is now called Tomb Keeper, as I was finally able to get most of the cards I need. I say most because I'm too impatient to wait for 2 cards I ordered in the mail. And the 3rd card I'm probably going to have to see if I can get at my locals. But I'll get to that at the end of the video. So starting off with the monsters, I play 3 copies of the absolute best normals on the deck, which is 3 copies of the Man with the Mark. Also called Odeon. That's based on. Anyway, the Man with the Mark has the effect that when this card's normal or special summoned, you can take 1 Temple of the Kings or a spell or trap that mentions it from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. Then you can only use each effect of the Man with the Mark once per turn. And then while this card is on the field and you control Temple of the Kings, then this card and Apophis cards you control cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect, nor can Temple of the Kings be destroyed by card effect. And then, one thing I will go ahead and mention now that I probably should have mentioned earlier is this is still an early build, as I'm still trying to figure out what ratios I personally like. I say that mostly because I also play 3 copies of Merciless Scorpion of Circuit. Merciless Scorpion of Circuit cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned from your hand by banishing a level 10 or higher monster from your hand or deck. And then, let's see, you have to do that while you control Temple of the Kings, and then you can only special summon this card once per turn. And then once per turn, let's see, what was it? I can't remember the rest of it, I'm sorry. Once per turn during your main phase, you can add a Temple of the Kings or a spell that mentions it from your deck to your hand. Then at the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can destroy that monster. And if you do, this card gains attack equal to half the destroyed monster's original attack. So, honestly, the only reason I'm playing 3 is just because I'd rather see it, and the fact that Mystical Beasts of Circuit is still one of my favorite monsters from this game early on. And next, I play 3 copies of Anubis the Last Judge. Anubis the Last Judge has the effect that you can discard it to then be able, or cannot be normal summoned or set, must first be special summoned from your hand or graveyard, while you have 3 or more cards in your graveyard. 3 names. I apologize. I don't have these effects memorized, so I was trying to read the card in. But you can special summon it by having 3 or more cards in your graveyard, different names. There are Temple of the Kings or traps that mention it. You put 2 of them at the bottom of your deck. Let's see, make sure I'm saying this right. Place 2 of them at the bottom of the deck in any order, and then this card is summoned. And then from there, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, so you can add 1 the Man with the Mark from your deck to your hand. And if a spell or trap you control is destroyed by card effect, you can target 1 card your opponent controls and destroy it. You can only use each effect of Anubis the Last Judge once per turn. Honestly, I just really love Anubis the Last Judge, as I just really like all the Anubis cards. Though I would like Judgment of Anubis to have been a lot better, which luckily it got an upgrade. And then next, for hand traps, I play 3 copies of Effect Veiler. This is just during your opponent's main phase. Quick effect, you can discard it, target an effect monster your opponent controls, negates effects till the end of the turn. Not once per turn. And then next, I play 3 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Ghost Ogre has the effect that when your opponent activates a effect of a monster, or a spell or trap card that was already face up on the field, then you can discard this card to destroy that card. And then you can only use that effect. You can send this card from your hand or field to graveyard. That's the correct wording. So technically, you can also summon this card off emergency teleport if you really want to. But I'm not, so. Next, I play 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Ash Blossom is just in this deck because it can negate any card that would add from deck to hand, send from deck to grave, or summon from deck. Next, I also play 3 copies of Nibiru the Primal Being. The reason I like this card in the deck is just because It's good to have in your hand, but if it's not in your hand, then you can technically banish this for Merciless Scorpion of Circuit. Instead of having to get rid of Anubis the Last Judge and another copy of the Man of the Mark from your deck. But anyway, Anubis. My brain doesn't want to function. Nibiru has the effect that during the main phase, if your opponent has normal or special summoned 5 monsters that turn, you can reveal this card in your hand, or you can activate its effect in hand to then tribute all monsters on the field, and if you do, you summon this card to your field, and you give your opponent a Primal Being token that has attack and defense equal to the total original attack and defense of the tributed monsters. And you can only use that effect on Nibiru the Primal Being once per turn. And then, to round off the hand traps, I play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Infinite Impermanence can be activated from your hand while you control no cards. But that's the same thing as Effect Failure, just target an effect monster your opponent controls and negates effects till the end of the turn. However, if you activate it while it was set, then it also negates all spells and traps in its column until the end of the turn. And then there are 3 cards I want to put in the deck, but it requires me to get that 3rd card I mentioned earlier, which I'll talk about those 3 cards when I get there. But if I were to put those in, then I would probably take out either Ghost Ogre or Nibiru. I would take out one of the hand traps, is what I'm getting at. Then moving on to the spells, I play 1 copy at Temple of the Kings, just because I feel like you still have to play one of the original one, just because it does let you activate a trap the same turn it's set. So I do like that being a thing. Then next I play 1 copy of Terraforming, so you can add a copy of Treasures of the Kings from your deck to your hand. Then next I play 2 copies of Defense of the Temple. This just lets you fusion summon an Earth fusion monster using monsters let's see, from your hand or field, I believe. Yeah, and if you fusion summon if you use a monster you control as material that mentions Temple of the Kings, you can also use 1 monster your opponent controls as well. Which, if you do use one of your opponent's monsters, then it would be a monster that has 2,500 or less attack. And then it does have a Grave effect, but this isn't a Winged Dragon of Ra build, so you're not going to use that Grave effect. Which, honestly, I think the card it adds is just bad anyway. Next, I play 3 copies of Treasures of the Kings. Treasures of the Kings has the effect that once the card's activated, you can set an Apophis trap directly from your deck. And then this card's name becomes Temple of the Kings while it's on the field zone. Once per turn, if you have 2 or more set cards on your field or a trap card in your graveyard, then you can add a monster that mentions Temple of the Kings from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect of Treasures of the Kings once per turn. Or, you can only activate 1 Treasures of the Kings per turn. And then next, for the traps, which is where this deck shines, I play 1 copy of Statue of Anguish Pattern. Statue of Anguish Pattern has the effect that you can activate it as a monster. It's still a trap, which I believe it is an Earth Rock. Yeah, it's an Earth Rock that's level 7 with 0 attack and 2,500 defense. And then, if this card is summoned, it cannot be targeted by an opponent's card effect while you control another trap card that is a monster. And then, while this card's already face up on the field, then every time you activate another trap effect that summons it as a monster, so any of the Apophis cards, because those are the only other trap monsters in this deck, for now, then when you summon a new one, you can then destroy 1 card your opponent controls. Which, if you were to pair that with the extra deck Apophis monster, that's 2 cards you get to destroy every time. And next, I play 1 copy of Embodiment of Apophis. This is just in here because you kind of have to play it. But Embodiment of Apophis just summons itself during the main phase. That's it. It's just a normal monster. And then next, I play 3 copies of Apophis the Swamp Deity. Apophis the Swamp Deity it can be activated during the main phase, so that it can summon itself as a normal monster. However, as part of its trap, it also lets you negate face-up cards your opponent currently controls, up to the number of different trap monsters you control. Which Will always be at least one, but it should be able to be like 2 or 3 at most. Or at most times. Don't know why I paused it at most. And I think the dumb part of this card is the fact that it is not a once per turn thing. You can activate, if you have 3 set, you can activate all 3, and each one just gives you an additional negate. And then lastly, for the trap monsters, I play 3 copies of Apophis the Serpent. Apophis the Serpent has the effect you can special summon as a normal monster. And then as the trap, it then lets you set an Apophis trap from your deck except for another copy of Apophis the Serpent. And that card you set can activate that turn. So what you can do is, if you have Temple of the Kings in play, then you can set this, you can then activate Apophis the Serpent. You can then activate its effect, summoning itself, and let you set Apophis the Swamp Deity. You can then activate Apophis the Swamp Deity, send both Apophis traps to the graveyard to summon Apophis, the Apophis Fusion monster, which will then let you set the 2 Apophis from your grave, and then Apophis the Serpent will then let you grab Embodiment of Apophis from your deck to your hand, as also has the effect that if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 Embodiment of Apophis from your deck to your hand. And then lastly is my favorite trap that was printed from the Maze of the Master set, which is 3 copies of Verdict of Anubis. Verdict of Anubis can only be activated when your opponent activates a spell, trap card, or monster effect. And let's see what's that. And then while you have, what was it, 3 or more spells or traps in play? You can never remember that part. While you control 3 or more other spells or traps. But what it does is it negates that card you have activated, as well as being able to then destroy all monsters your opponent controls and deal damage equal to their combined original attack. And if I remember, yeah, the only downside of this card is you can activate 1 Verdict of Anubis per turn, which I believe most people only play 1, but I like this card enough that I'm playing 3. And then the card I want to add to the deck is a single copy of Swamp Mirror. It is a trap monster that can, when activated, you choose its type and attribute, and then it summons as that type and attribute. But all I want to do with it is I'll summon it, and then I'll also have it set Harpy's Featherstorm because I'll make it a Wind-Winged Beast. Which I think would be really, really funny. Now, moving on to the extra deck. I play 1 copy of IP Masquerena. IP Masquerena just lets you link summon your opponent's, or during your opponent's main phase, by using this card's material. And then, a monster that's link summoned using IP Masquerena cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Next, I play 1 copy of Silhouette Rabbit. I would play 2, but I only have 1 at the moment, so I'm only playing the 1. If I had a second, then I'd probably take out one of the Nightmares. Or Access Code Talker, because I don't usually get to make a Link 4. But Silhouette Rabbit has the effect that... Well, I forget its main effect. The main thing I remember is that it lets you set a continuous trap in your deck. See, if this card battles a monster, then neither monster can be destroyed by that battle. You can only use each of the following effects of Silhouette Rabbit once per turn. If it's link summoned, you can set a continuous trap from your deck with an effect that summons itself as a monster. Also, this card cannot be used as link material this turn. If a card is set in the spell and trap zone, is special summoned to the monster zone, you can target 1 spell or trap your opponent controls, destroy it. Okay, I don't know why I can never get that memorized, but that's what it does. Which the main thing is, if I see Harpy's Featherstorm in my hand, then I can make Silhouette Rabbit, have it set Swamp Mirror, and then during my opponent's draw phase I can activate it, making it a Wind-Winged Beast. And then, as long as it can summon, then I have a Harpy's Featherstorm online I can use to just turn off all my opponent's monster effects for the turn. And then next I play 1 copy of SP Little Knight. SP Little Knight has the effect that if it's link summoned using a monster that was summoned from the extra deck, so Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, Link, then you can target 1 card on the field or in the graveyard, banish it. But if you use that effect, you cannot attack directly that turn. And then SP Little Knight also has an effect where if your opponent activates a card or effect, then you can activate SP's effect, targeting 1 monster you control and 1 other monster on the field, banish both until the end of the turn. and you only use each effect of SP Little Knight once per turn. Next, I play 1 copy of Nightmare Cerberus, 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix, and 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn. All 3 of these have the effect that when they are link summoned, you can discard 1 card, target one type of card on the field, and then do something with that card. Cerberus lets you target a special zone monster in your opponent's main monster zone to destroy it. Phoenix lets you target a spell or trap your opponent controls and destroy it. Then Unicorn will let you target 1 card on the field and shuffle it back into the deck. And then if any of them are links or co-linked when that effect is used, you get to draw a card. And then they each have additional effects from there, where Cerberus makes it so that your co-linked monsters cannot be destroyed by bad card effects. I believe that's what it was. Yeah, Cerberus makes it so your co-linked monsters can't be destroyed by card effects. Phoenix makes it so your co-linked monsters can't be destroyed in battle. And then Nightmare Unicorn makes it so that during your draw phase, you can skip your normal draw phase to then draw 1 card for every other monster that's co-linked with it. So if it's co-linked with Cerberus and Phoenix, then you would get to draw 2 cards instead of just 1. But usually these aren't making it to that, or getting those effects, so I normally don't bother with them. And lastly, for the links, I play 1 copy of Access Code Talker. Access Code has the effect that your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to its effects. And if it's link summoned, you can target a link monster in your graveyard that is used for its link summoning to have it gain 1000 attack times that monster's link rating. So if you make it with Nightmare Cerberus and 1 other monster, or Nightmare Cerberus, Nightmare Unicorn and 1 other monster, then it gains 3000 attack. And then you can banish monsters from your graveyard, or link monsters from your graveyard, to target 1 card your opponent controls and destroy it. You can use that effect as many times as you want, but each time you banish a link monster, you cannot banish another link monster with that same type. So if you have IP Masquerade and SP Little Knight in your graveyard, you can banish the Masquerade, but then when you use the effect again, you cannot banish the Little Knight. I hope that makes sense, because it was starting to hurt my head a little. And then next, I play 1 copy of Cyframe Lord Omega. Omega is only in this deck for Ultimate Slayer purposes. But Omega has the effect that if it's in the graveyard, you can activate its effect to then put itself and 1 other card in your graveyard back into the deck. So I just like it because it's able to do a bit of recycling. And then next, I play 3 copies of Divine Serpent Apophis. So I believe it's, yeah, I always want to say it's something like Divine Serpent of Apophis. But Divine Serpent Apophis has to either be fusion summoned by using 2 monsters that mention Temple of the Kings, or you can summon it by attributing to Apophis monsters you control. When this card is fusion summoned, then you can then you can set up to 3 Apophis traps from your graveyard. And so basically you get to make it for free. And then if you activate a spell or trap, let's see, what was it? And then once per turn, if a trap card is activated, except during the damage step, then you can target 1 card on your opponent controls and destroy it. And then next, I play my favorite fusion, which is 2 copies of Divine Scorpion Beast of Circuit. Divine Scorpion Beast of Circuit has the effect that if this card is special summoned or at the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, then you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, 1 in the graveyard, banish it. If you do, this card gains attack equal to half of the banished monster's original attack. You can only use this effect once per turn. It can make a second attack during each battle phase while a level 10 or higher monster is banished. Which, if you summon this using a circuit you control and then an opponent's monster that has 2500 or less attack, then this should be able to just keep attacking twice. But I do like it because when it's summoned, then you can just banish a big thing from your opponent's graveyard, which I believe it was grave or field. Yeah, you just target the thing they control in the graveyard, so you target the biggest thing they have that it can banish. It gains half its attack, and then it just gets to attack twice. It's just in here for big damage. And honestly, the only reason I'm playing 2, again, is just for Ultimate Slayer purposes. as I play all 4 of the extra decks summoning things I can send, so I figure why not play Ultimate Slayer. However, one thing I will go ahead and mention is if I take things out of the deck, the first 4 options I would think of would be, in order, would be Nightmare Cerberus, or not Nightmare Cerberus, in order from most likely to least likely, would be Access Code, Nightmare Cerberus, Nightmare Phoenix, Nightmare Unicorn. It'd be those 4 in that order. Just because I don't normally want to make a Link 4, and then the other ones are just situational, mostly. But anyway, the main reason I say that is because I do want to play 1 copy of Gallant Granite in the deck, as well as 1 copy of Lord of the Heavenly Prison, as I have Lord of the Heavenly Prison. I'm just waiting for Gallant Granite to arrive, which is just a generic rank 4 that you can just be able to detach a material to add a rock from deck to hand, which could be Nibiru, or it can be Lord of the Heavenly Prison, which can let you set a trap in your deck. Which, if you have Temple of the Kings in play, can activate that turn. Anyway, to continue with the Xyz monsters, I play 1 copy of Gaga Cowboy just for time rules, because for some reason, if you don't have an answer for time rules, then you're just going to lose. This game was a lot more fun when the time rules were turns instead of phase. This was much more skill-based of, oh, I have lots of burn cards now. Yes, I'm salty about the time rules, as I've lost to them, because my opponent would either be playing slow and then just flip all their burn cards, or they're just, well, being slow. But Gaga Cowboy has 2 effects depending on what position it's in. Most of the time you want it in defense mode, as Gaga Cowboy can detach material to inflict 800 points of damage to your opponent if it's in defense. And then lastly, I play 1 copy of Superstar Slayer Typhon Sky Crisis, which can be summoned by using the strongest monster on your field. But during the turn, during the turn or turn after your opponent has special summoned 2 or more monsters from your extra deck, then you can also summon it by using that. But it has the effect of, let's see, you can use 1 monster with the highest attack, your choice if there's a tie. And then while it exceeds summon monsters, on the field, neither player can activate the effects of monsters with 3,000 or more attack. Then once per turn, you can detach material from it to return 1 monster on the field to the hand. I don't know why my brain was struggling to process how the card works, but oh well. But like I said, there are a few changes I would make, which probably is going to end up being taking out 2 the Merciless Scorpion Circuit, and a single copy of Defense of the Temple, or I'll just keep both in, just because sometimes you may just want to fusion summon a Hofus monster. But there are a few changes I want to make. I'm going to test this deck at my locals, and then I will comment how I did, as at the time of recording it is Thursday, and my locals is in 2 days. But I will comment below how I did with the deck, and then if I want to make changes, I'll make a new video. Anyway, if you made it this far, feel free to comment down below for any suggestions for how to improve the deck, decks I see made in the future, or decks I see face each other. I am currently working on a Red Eyes versus Tomb Keeper video. But if you have any ideas about those kind of videos decks to be made, or improvement ideas, comment below. I always read the comments. Thank you for watching.